Welcome to Jung at Harp, episode number 200. We're so glad you're joining us. I'm Kathleen Wiley, a Jungian psychoanalyst in North Carolina, and I'm here with Deborah Henson-Conant, a composer, a performer, an educator, a creative. We both play the harp, and that's why we call this Jung at Harp. And almost every week we come together to explore a question. We don't start with answers, but we start with questions. And we invite you into our conversation and exploration if you're joining us live through the chat option in whatever program you're watching us. And today, episode 200, I got so excited about 200, I forgot to tell you what we're talking about. Episode 200 is traveling buddies. Traveling buddies, the traveling buddies of overwhelm and anxiety, or grounding and support. And which of these pairs of states of consciousness and your own inner experience do you cultivate? What's the default that you go to? How do you respond when you find yourself in anxiety and overwhelm? Are you able to access the grounding and support of your own being in your body-mind? So this is what we're exploring today, and going to see how it is by the end of our conversation, we all might have a clearer sense of how we can be grounded and support ourselves. And I'm showing you my bias about which pair of buddies I prefer.
Well, and it's funny that you should say that, because when you say which ones do you cultivate, and I'm like, well, I'd like to think that I cultivate grounding and support, but I think I cultivate anxiety and the other one, and overwhelm. And the other thing I'm really excited about this conversation is because as we were talking about it, and you were saying the other traveling buddies are grounding and support, and I was like, well, I don't know about that support part. So I'm really curious to discover more in the conversation. And one of the reasons that I wanted to talk about this is that I'm experiencing, and I don't even like to say this because, like, in some circles, the word overwhelm, it's kind of like if you're an alcoholic and you said, I just had a drink. You know, in some of the circles that I run, if you admit that you're in overwhelm, it's kind of like, well, whoa, you're not very together. Yet, for me right now, I've been really working hard for the last 10 years to get the certain three balls up in the air in my life, because I really feel that they fit together and that they can have an influence on each other. And that's performing, composing, publishing, and teaching, coaching. For me, there are these three sides of legacy and of being an artist at sort of the third stage of life, the imago stage, if you were. You know, it's the after coming out of the chrysalis, where everything is working. And so they're all working. I mean, I have a show next week, and I've been doing a lot of radio and other interviews, and which is wonderful and fun, but it's just like, wow. And at the same time, we're promoting the first quarter of Harp Academy, which is all about the strings of passion and creative resonance. So there's everything that goes along with that. And at the same time, we're working on publishing, and, you know, I'm getting requests for, you know, there's all the administration and stuff behind it. And so I am kind of overwhelmed. And so I've noticed that when I come to events, like I've been teaching something called vision music. And vision music is the opposite of all that overwhelm. I'm noticing that when I huff and puff and get to the workshop, I'll be just kind of talking, and then I'll say, and let me show you this. It's just, you know, two motifs, and with this one. And the minute I start playing them, I can feel, and everyone else can feel and hear, the shift in how I am, my state of being. And then when I start showing, doing in this is exploring those two concepts, which are just starting there and then everything that means. Because if you start there, you can explore that, or you can explore the opposite direction, or you can explore what happens when you keep going. So you never have to, there's only two things to know, and it's basically that. Always come back to that, and then start just applying principles that I teach people of melodic improvisation. Or there are also principles of composition, but we're using them in improv. And really the salient thing, and really the functional thing that's happening is that harmonic thing. And the whole exploration is so, the music itself is so simple that you can be self-expressed. Mm-hmm. And there's 5, it's a suite, so there's 5 of them. It starts with that, and then the next one is a different one. It's just got a different idea, but the idea is play all the white strings with an A, play all the white strings with a G, with the A, with a G, and then when you get down to the F, you open up all the strings. But there's something emotional that happens with this simple thing that anyone could do. Like, this is not, it's not a melody, it's an idea. Like, you could say this to a person who's never played the harp. Play only the white strings and then play this A. Well, you could play the A. You could play only the right strings, only the white strings, keep the white strings. Explore them in different shapes. Keep going. Now you can play all the strings. I mean, like, it's a construct. It's a creative construct that allows, I don't know how to describe it. These are things I discovered as a little kid. Like, oh, this feels like this. But the point is that there's 5 of these, and they all fit together. They each have a different feeling, and they're all super simple, and then they end with something that's like, this is the final one, and it just has this feeling of completion. And they literally fit on one page. They're so simple, but the feeling that I get, I never thought about it, but everyone started saying, you just go like this. And then you're present in a completely different way. So I just said a word, and I think maybe this is what I would say: grounded and present.
Yeah, because if you're grounded, you are present. And then there you have the support of all your being, of all your inner resources, of your own body, mind. You know, one of the things that came into my mind as you were talking is the construct, is that the construct is the support. So the construct of these snippets that are the movement and that you put together in the suite, that's the support. And that construct is a support that then allows you to be in the present moment, which is the only place we can be when we're grounded. You know, we're not flying off into what next or what in the past, or we're in the present moment. And so we could have, you know, just as easily said present and supported if we wanted, because there is a qualitative feeling tone to being present, to being grounded. And your people in the Hip Harp Academy feel that when you show up on a call all frantic, and then you ground.
Right.
You go to the construct, the support, to get out of any overwhelm and anxiety. And so for me, in a way, these pairs of opposites are actually the 2 ends of the same spectrum of an energy system. On this end of the spectrum is the overwhelm and anxiety, and on this end is the grounded and present. And so then if we utilize the alchemical principle, which is also an embodiment principle of the law of polarity, then when we're over here in overwhelm and anxiety, the question to ask ourselves is, okay, so what is it that will support me to getting grounded and just being in this moment?
Well, it's so interesting because, first of all, now I want to play you like another piece and say, well, what's the feel? Where is this on the spectrum? where did this get? But as you were talking, I was thinking framework. And I was thinking that a lot of the anxiety that I have these days is that I'm, getting a lot of questions for interviews, or there's something that I'm way behind on, just that I don't even want to put the word. It's a description of a piece that I'm going to do, unless they kick me out of the World Harp Congress, where I'm presenting this a really, for me, very exciting piece about, it's called My Life with Jean-Jacques Rousseau. And it's all about how one little piece of music expanded and expanded throughout my life and became sort of the lightning rod or whatever it is that spawned so much stuff. But writing the description of what it's going to be, since once again, I seem to be creating some form of art that has no obvious, it's not like this, that I don't know what it is. So I realize that as I'm going from thing to thing, I'm often lacking a framework. It's like when someone says, play something amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have something to go to, and this is really interesting. I'm just thinking about this because there's so many things that are flipping around my head. So I'll just go to them and just stop me. Like one of the things that I teach people when they come to Hip Harp Academy or when I'm coaching them about is to have a way to connect with people the very first time you play for them. When you sit down to play for people, that does not put you in that situation of being judged. And you do it. And it's interesting because we were just talking before that I have all these interview questions that are asking me things that I just think are not that interesting. And how do I shift them around to what's like really going on in my life? But you can do that with music as well. So that instead of sitting down and playing something amazing, you can sit down and say, you can make it very simple. I started the harp as an adult. I that I wanted to do something I'd never done before, that I had no idea how to do. And so that instead of launching into, hey, let me try to pretend that I know how to play, you tell the story of where you actually are. And that story is always so much more compelling than trying to pretend like you're on America's Got Talent or something and that you have to prove it. So you can always shift it around to where you're actually creating a human connection rather than a binary, good or bad. Is this good or bad? So why am I talking about all this?
Well, I don't know exactly, but what I'll offer is that one of the things that Jung says is that once we withdraw all of our unconscious projections onto other people, and we use people kind of in service of our own psyche, that once all of that's withdrawn and we're really able to show up present in who we are and see the other as who they are, that what we are left with is the kinship libido, which is the need for human connection. So what I want to say to you about your description of this piece of music is right from the connection to your own human nature, and that will resonate and speak to other people's humanness. It's that place of human connection that really matters. So that's where I went. And human connection starts with being present to ourselves.
I'm on a tangent here because when you said kinship, I had a book as a child. I just started crying. I had a book as a child, and it was called Kinship with All Life. And it was stories of human connection with animals. Starting with a dog and then even a fly and worms. And it was just this really... It was just a beautiful book. So what I'm hearing is overwhelm and anxiety, grounding and connection.
Yeah.
So when I play this, all the different movements from the Vision Suite, or when I teach it, that's a certain kind of feeling. And you were talking about felt sense, and you were saying like anxiety and overwhelm is over here. It's like a spectrum, and over here is this connection and kinship and support. And I would put the word framework, having we talk about container. So I'm just curious. It made me realize that every piece that I play probably has some kind of resonance to something on that spectrum,
Yes.
and it may have several different ones. And I just realized also that the first piece I always play, and I love to go to it because it's a piece of exploration, has this slow introduction. Connect. So it's got this kind of vision music aspect to it. And then I get to kind of connect with the structure of classical. And then it goes into that sort of more flamenco feeling, but then it comes out and then it comes to the actual melody. And then it has a second section, etc., and then etc. That ends. The melody ends, and then the improv starts. The first improv, it's got all these different parts. And the first improv, this is what I want to ask you. What is the felt sense of this? What is the felt sense of that?
So I'll answer that question with an image that comes to me, because sometimes the feeling doesn't, the one word of the feeling doesn't come, but an image does. For me, I immediately felt myself around a campfire with Latin dancers and a party celebration. It was a celebration. So I immediately began to feel this sense of community and celebration and joy and playfulness. That's where I went. And I think, I don't know if that's where other people went, or if that's what you intend
I don't know. I mean, part of the issue is that I love this piece and I love the feelings, but even as you're just talking right now, I'm like, oh, that's how to get into this piece. That's how to connect with it, is that it's a party. It's an invitation.
It's an invitation. Yeah. And, it's kind of like parties tend to start out a little slow as people are arriving, putting their stuff down, getting set up, but you need that time to kind of acclimate. It's very different to get to a party at the beginning than coming into the party halfway through, when everybody else is already in that much more ecstatic, celebratory state. And so that's what it felt like to me.
Okay, so that's really great, because that's just a new way to explore it and to get to bring in the idea of character. I'm also teaching the 7 strings of passion, and the first string is impulse. The second string is structure. We talked about framework. And then, so when I have an impulse and I have a structure, now I'm grounded. I've got a thing that I'm doing, whether it's that, vision music, or whether it's this. I know where I'm going. It's like I'm going on my run. I don't get lost, and I get to explore each day. But the third string of passion is character. And character is how you get to do it. And then the fourth string is roles, which is doing it with others, or doing it, or splitting yourself into roles, so you can kind of have this thing anyway. But just the first 3. And now what I'm hearing you say, and I've heard this before, but I forget it, that when we talk about character, we're also talking about characters. We're also talking about characteristics. So when I was playing with a certain character, you saw the characters.
Yeah. And I saw the characters because of the felt sense. the experience in my body, the felt state in my body. You know, this is one of the ways that psyche works, and is that the whenever we have an emotional physiological sensation in our body, it's like almost immediately an image of that will emerge, and we talk about that as the image making function of psyche. So those two things are traveling buddies. So when you talk about characters, we can start with the image of the character, or we can start with the felt sense. For me, because I didn't have that idea of what
Mm.
story you were telling, my felt sense was of the celebration, that I could feel myself kind of dancing inside, and hearing the feet tapping along on the floor, on the ground. And that then gave me this image of this celebratory around the campfire Latin dance
But
music. So,
then you gave me the story, and then the story gave me more of a way to ground in the piece.
because it resonated for you, you felt a resonance, a simpatico with it. It's like that felt, a simple way of saying it, that felt right to you. This is one of the power of story. When we share our story, our own felt experience um, will resonate with someone else too, because of the human experience. Because we all know what it feels like to be at a celebratory dance or party.
Yeah. Well, we can at least imagine it. Yes. Yes. No. So my mind is going in so many ways. I mean, I want to follow up the story, this idea about story. I'm imagining how fun it would be to play a piece of music and hear, because you said, because the story resonated with me, and I thought, I believe, but I could be wrong about myself, that any story that I was given would expand my understanding of that, or my feeling of it. And then I want to come back to our subject, the travel
Mm-hmm.
stories and how they relate to each other. But I want to bring Victoria into this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Victoria says, compelling story stood out for me. Kinship
Mm-hmm.
of human connection also stood out for me.
Yeah.
Wondering if we are more connected with ourselves or each other when we believe we are telling a
Mm-hmm.
story. And that belief could come from being in, wait, oh, okay, I'll read the rest of what she's saying. And that belief could come from being in character or the felt sense of that character. And she puts a question mark at the end. So she's asking, compelling story, kinship of human connection. So what part of what I'm hearing and what Victoria is saying is, well, I'm hearing it like, oh, every time I play a piece of music, does it have a compelling story? Does it, for me, or am I playing it in such a way that it could? And do we get to experience kinship with human connection? Now she's asking, wondering if we're more connected with ourselves or each other when we believe we are telling a compelling story. I hand that over to you, Kathleen. What do you think?
So this is how I'm going to answer the question. Um, I think it's not so much about believing it's a compelling story for someone else, but it's about knowing it is our story that has compelled us forward. So yesterday I wrote the final chapter for this book I've been working on for the last 5 years. And one of the things I talk about in there is how about a year ago I woke up and I realized I was writing this book for me. That all of my attempts to write this book to satisfy this group of people or that group of people or this person, it wasn't about that. It was about, I'm writing this story for me, for the me that was the kid who was the seeker, or the young woman who needed guidance, or, the 30 something divorcee, whatever. When I got that, I realized what I've written here is the stories and the principles that have compelled me to become more of who I am. Once we know that, then we share a powerful story, because it has no agenda to try and get anyone else to feel or see anything else. Whether my story compels someone else or not at this point doesn't matter to me, because I am sharing my experience and what compelled me. And I know deep in my heart and trust, and there will be people that resonates with, and there will be people it doesn't resonate with.
Well, I have a question, and I want to bring Victoria's up
Yeah.
again to talk on it. if that's true, and I believe that's true, why is it so hard to write it?
Because in order to write it, I had to get to that point of letting go of writing it for what this colleague might think, or what this publisher might think, or
Mm.
what this reader might think, or what this, you know, you have to get. I had to, and I think this is true for a lot of creatives. I had to let go of what anyone else thought about it. I had the most important thing had to shift from how is this going to impact other people, i.e., how am I going to manipulate them with my words, to, okay, this is what I know to be real in my life and what I know to be real from my journey with other people. So it grounds. If we go back to overwhelm and anxiety versus grounding and support, I grounded in myself and the support of the self that's carried me through versus getting overwhelmed with the way I thought it should be and anxious about whether or not it was going to be like someone else's experience. And it's a recognition that within the universal, there is the specific, and within the specific is the universal. One of the alchemical principles and an embodiment principle is the all, capital A, capital L, capital L, is in all. It's all interconnected. And so, for me, I get overwhelmed when I'm trying to give everybody the capital A, capital L, capital L. But when I can pull back and say, I'm giving them my little a, little L, little L, you know, and in that all of me, which is the little a, little L, the all exist. And that's the thread that we're all wanting to follow. So I do think, Victoria, what you're saying about if we believe we're telling a compelling story, I think there's truth in that. I would use a different word because belief to a lot of people is if a head thing, but the kind of knowing I'm talking about is a belief that brings. It's not about the head. It's a deep, deep knowing of the truth. And then someone's gonna have to remind me of the second question.
Okay, and Victoria, and I just want to.
And you want to respond to this one first?
I want to respond to what came into my head when you were talking, and so as you were talking, I started thinking about this particular tune and what struggles I have with it. So I had this tune came out of, I woke up out of a dream, and I had this melody in my head, but it's very hard to play for some reason. I struggle with that. And as you were talking, I was like, why did you never turn it around in a way that would be easier for your body? I don't know what it would be. I don't know what it would be. I'd have to play with it, but my thumb is much more, I could take the same rhythm, the same feeling, turn it around and have it work for my body. And I thought there was something about what you were saying when you were talking about your truth rather than believing, this is how I heard it, your truth. I thought, well, my body has a truth as well.
Yes.
And it's different than what my ear has. And if I try to make my ear rule my hands, I'm going to be forcing my hands to do things that maybe my voice were better to do or whatever, who knows. But I'm just curious now to take the piece apart, rebuild it for my body. What would it be like? So
that's beautiful, because I think, again, and part of what I talk about in the embodiment circle is we want our head, heart, and gut in alignment. You want your ears and your hands and your own felt gut experience of it aligned. You want,
but I want my hands to be the guide of what they're doing. I want the gestures to come out of my heart and my soul.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to force my hands to play a melody that's difficult for them to play. I'm not a classical concert. I'm not someone who is playing other people's music. So there's no reason for me to make my hands do something. Right. After, I've been playing this piece for probably 15, 20, I don't know how many years. I've always struggled with that melody. And it's never occurred to me until just this conversation to shift. And as I'm saying this out loud, I'm thinking, overwhelm and anxiety, it's never occurred to me in my head, like, that's what this is what has to happen for this to happen. It's never occurred to me to shift around and say, hello, it's your body that's doing this. What works for your body? So that's what was happening while I was listening and yet not listening, because as soon as I said I got that, I was like, whoa, I don't even know what world I was in. So meanwhile, Victoria has come up with a new, so let's bring up her next. Oh, I like that. She says, we believe that our story compels us forward. We believe, and I'm going to read it differently. We believe, and our story compels us forward. And I can see how imposter syndrome can get in the way of that, because we let other people's judgment sway that belief. Right. And what I think when I heard Kathleen say that, I was thinking two people in my body. One is my body and one is two musical parts. There's my voice and my ear. And my ear is trying to, anyway, but it's not any, stop me, Kathleen, take it over.
Well, but I think what you're clarifying what has the greatest value, and where is it that you're going to be most authentically you and able to be present and support yourself. And if your hands are struggling, then it's going to be difficult to be completely present, because it's going to fuel anxiety about, can I get it right, this or that? So why not come in and support yourself? Give your ear the rhythm it wants, and your hands a progression, a shape, a movement that fits.
As you're saying that, I'm thinking, when I write for symphony orchestra, I'll write something, but each instrument has what works for it. So like I'll write the bassoon part, but then I'll have a bassoonist come in and I'll say, look at this. This is what I'm trying to do. What makes it bassoonistic, and what makes it not bassoonistic? And how do we turn it into something that's bassoonistic? And just so the person, once they know what I'm trying to do, they can be like, well, you can achieve this effect by doing this, and it's going to be much easier and much more fun for a bassoon player. But I never thought of doing that for myself. What's going to be easier for me?
Yeah. So now we're to the traveling buddies of grounding and support. When you get grounded in your body, your gut, your heart, and what really matters, then you immediately had a sense of the support, a structure that would support you.
Right. And I'm looking back at what Victoria is saying is imposter syndrome. By the fact that we think we're an imposter, we are not connected. There's two things. There's who we are and who we're trying to be. And I don't know how long it's going to take me to re-find, or whether I'll be able to do that by Friday when I play it, rediscover what works about that tune for my hands. But I just want to go back the way I'm seeing this. We believe, and our story compels us forward. Or maybe she's saying we believe that our story compels us forwards. Anyway, either way, it opens up really great stuff to think about.
Well, I think, again, we can play with for just a minute. I think overwhelm and anxiety can come when our ego and our persona oriented to the outer world creates a story that we're then supposed to model ourselves after. Okay. And there's a lot of therapy and self-help modalities and coaching that operate saying that's the way to move. As a psychoanalyst and someone who's an advocate for embodiment, what I'm going to say is get quiet and find that thread of the self, your own essence, and how it's been moving and how it wants to move. And from that thread, following and seeing that thread, begin to tell your story, and that story, that thread will move you forward with a lot less efforting. Yeah.
Okay, I believe you. And so as a kid, the persona that spoke to me as the thing that works was Leonard Bernstein. And it was being a performer, maybe a charismatic performer, at the same time as being a composer of music theater, music that has story and dance in it, and being an educator. I saw him embody these three things. And that was my model. That's the way you become a person.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way you become an artist that is full. So, so that's how I've been living my life, and putting those things together. And, okay, and this part right now I'm performing this, but eventually it's going to be composed, so other people can perform it. And now I'm in the middle of that, all kind of, now it's all in place, and it's overwhelming. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. I'm finally being the authentic person I imagined, and it's overwhelming.
Well, I'm not familiar with Leonard Bernstein's story intimately, so I do not. So let me just say,
I don't know his story either.
Yeah.
I saw it that there were these three things.
Yeah. So I really can't speak to that. But what I am going to say is there's some new research that shows that multitasking really is not a thing we can do. And
stop that right here, right now. If multitasking was something we can't do, then we could not play the harp, because the harp is a multitasked instrument. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Well, you can argue. You can argue with the researchers.
Yeah.
The point that I want to bring in that I think is valid for us is that if I'm going to be with you doing this podcast and having this conversation, all I can do in this moment, if I'm going to thoroughly be present and grounded and supported, is do this thing. If a part of my brain is over here thinking about this thing or that thing or that thing, then it splits the energy, and it's going to lessen the presence that I bring here, and thus I believe the positive, the effective impact that I can have on other people. So I think part of the key is beginning to recognize we need a full presence here. Now, maybe if I have a full presence here as we're talking, in comes an incoming thought or an idea about, oh, I want to make this change in my book. And so then if I have a way to jot that down and set it aside, but ultimately, I believe that to be the most effective and to be charismatic, you've got to be fully present. You can't be split.
Okay, I'm just going to argue with you here. First of all,
Okay.
I think this is a specialist's philosophy. And I think that if you went back into the 1800s, you would hear people talking about the power of generalization, like a general physician who's looking at all these different things. And I would just like to say that this podcast is called Jung at Harp. It's all about two things interacting to make a new thing. So for me, I don't see, I just hate stuff like this. Like, and don't get me started with all this, like how you do everything, how you do one thing is how you, all these things people say as if they're true. And I find that multi-thinking, creates new and amazing things. And I think that I've been called an innovator because that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we're just in a specialist world. You do this and that's what you do. Well, I'm sorry, but for a rich, whole person, part of what I love about talking to you is that you are actually bringing all these things at once. Even though, yes, we're here on a podcast, but you are bringing this full human being that may not fit. This podcast does not fit any other, thing. All right, I'll stand down.
No, that's okay. I mean, I'm not so sure that what we're saying is really opposite of one another, because what I would say is you're absolutely right. I have several, I call them expressions or personas. I have the persona of teaching analyst. I have a persona of clinical analyst. I have a persona of, of writer. I have a persona of the facilitator of the online sacred circles.
And lecturer.
Yeah, and I'm a wife, and I'm a sister, and I'm a harpist. I have all of these things. And in this moment, I bring all of that to bear on this experience with you. That for me, that is what is the key. It's not that and so that means all of those aspects of myself are informing the me in this moment. There's a synthesis, the larger self of who I am that can hold all of it. but I cannot cognitively. I may again reference things from each point, but it's all coming together in one. And you said it. We come together, the two of us, with two bodies of knowledge. And what makes this special is something emerges where they're knit together. It's
Mhm.
not fragmented anymore.
Mhm.
It's knit together. And I think that's part of what keeps us out of overwhelm. Where things get fragmented, I think we get overwhelmed and anxious. And I'm aware of a time we're going to have to stop. Yeah, it's 10
Oh,
o'clock.
goodness. Okay, wow.
Yeah,
I wanted to talk about jazz and rolls and okay.
yeah,
So let's just pull this up. This last
yeah.
uh, talking about multitasking on the harp, I found I had a breakthrough when I stopped thinking about different hand and eyes and voice doing their thing.
Yeah.
Okay. That I would love to hear more about that. And Carla, well, I love that there's so many of you speaking in today. Carla, so great to see you. This knowledge can help to improve improvisation and enlighten new ways of exploring the harp in a humanistic way. Yeah, and I want to explore this more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
This is great. Wow, it's just making me think, what would it be like if Kathleen was teaching the harp through embodiment practices? Or using it as the yeah, okay, wow. Well, Kathleen, I love that we had an argument today. This is so exciting. I can't wait for more. I thank you so much, and thank you to everybody who came here, part of the conversation. And I'm sorry to say, well, I'm happy to say, I won't be here next week. I'm going to be on a radio. I'm going to be getting prepared for a radio station, WGBH in Boston. I'm doing a live their lunchtime thing. So take a look at that. Look at my website for that. And we'll see each other again in February.
Yeah, we'll see each other in February.
Thank you so much. Any last things you want to say, Kathleen? Let me put you on the spot.
ground in your body, mind, and move. Let that thread move you. That's what I'm going to end with.
Okay, great.
Okay.
I can do that and come back and share in 2 weeks, and we'll see you. Thank you so much, Kathleen. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
And bye-bye to everyone who was here and who comes later on as well.
Visit jungatharp.com for show notes, contact links, and to follow the ongoing conversation. That's Jung, as in Carl Jung, the famous psychoanalyst, and harp, as in the many-stringed instrument.